normally I'll come over and catch Cody and let him know what we're going to play tonight. He actually picked the song out, and to me it's totally hilarious. Because I was going to go through Romans 14 and 13 and get into verse number 11 a little bit deeper, and a couple of things I want to look at, and couldn't get away from this thought. Put up in your Bible to Ezekiel chapter 22. I find it absolutely hilarious. She said, "Preacher's lost her mind." I never had one, but that has nothing to do with this. Look down at verse number 23. In Ezekiel 22, verse number 23. The word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, say unto her, Thou art the land that is not cleansed, nor rained upon in the day of indignation. There is a conspiracy of her prophets in the midst thereof, like a roaring lion ravening the prey. They have devoured souls, they've taken the treasures and precious things. They have made her many widows in the midst thereof. Her priests have violated my law, and have profaned my holy things. They have put no difference between the holy and profane, neither have they shewed difference between the unclean and the clean, and have hid their eyes from my Sabbaths. And I am profaned among them. Her princes in the midst thereof are like ravening prey, or ravening the prey to shed blood, to destroy souls, to get dishonest gain. Her prophets have daubed them with untempered mortar, seeing vanity and divining lies unto them, saying, Thus saith the Lord God, when the Lord hath not spoken. The people of the land have used oppression and exercised robbery, and have vexed the poor and needy. Yea, they have oppressed the stranger wrongfully. Look at verse 30. And I sought for a man among them that should make up the hedge and stand in the gap before me in the land, that I should not destroy it, but I found none. And that's what I thought was so hilarious. Probably between Joseph's CDs and stuff that they have downloaded on the computer and stuff, and the different units, there is probably about, and I'm trying to be conservative, 30 to 40 CDs minimum Cody could have picked songs from. And the song he picks has to do with, I want to be the one that says, Lord, here am I, use me. Of all the biblical truths that we can talk about, that is one of the most important. Because most people today, if you talk to them, if they have any religious background at all, they're going to tell you they know Jesus Christ. They believe in God. They know they're going to heaven. And live like the filth of the world. And when you try to approach them, they look at you as if you're the one that has a problem with it. I don't have a problem with it. I don't have to stand before God for you as an individual. As a church, I stand before God for the church, sure. But when I look and I hear people in other churches, and I got news for you, they're doozies. I'm around them all the time, as are y'all. And it's like, do you really understand the importance of what we're supposed to be doing? Now, if you notice the setting, Ezekiel 22 is pretty bad. It talks about all the things that are going on that's wrong. And I'm going to sum it up real quick. And how many of the preachers are telling lies and doing two things with their lies. They're either trying to find a way to make a buck, or they're trying to find a way to tell people something God didn't say. When I first started preaching, Brother Henson told me, he said, "Let me tell you something right now." He said, "The only thing people want to hear today is two things. Everybody in my family is saved and going to heaven, and God's going to be good to me all the days of my life." That's the only two messages they want to hear. And if you'll preach that, they'll come. Joel Osteen does. Let's go down the list. Joel Osteen makes his money telling everybody, God wants you to be as rich as I am. While he's selling books for how much? I heard somebody come up to me the other day and say, "Osteen, what your problem is? Do you know Joel Osteen pastors for free?" I said, "Yeah, with how many $1 million worth of books he sells every year with his book contract? If I was making $1 million a year, I'd pastor for free too." I've thought about writing, but my kind of writing don't appeal to most people. Duck's a duck, whether you like it or not. If you notice the first thing, and I sought. So there is an actual activity of God walking throughout America looking for people to make a difference. Now I want you to understand what I'm fixing to say. Most people right now, especially teenagers and Holly's age, a little bit, Hayden's age, a little bit younger than him, and they're trying to figure out, what am I going to do with my life? Am I going to go to school? Am I going to learn a trade? Am I going to do this, that, or the other? When the fact of the matter is, the most important thing they need to be figuring out is, how is God going to use me? Or better yet, how am I going to allow the Lord to use me that I can make a difference for God in the world that I live? Let me give you a couple examples of bad. Hillary Clinton decided that she was going to make her footprint upon the world with her ideology, her progressivism that she has. And by the way, she did it. She did it. I'm just telling you, people, she made up her mind, she dedicated her life, and she did it. There is nothing I like about that woman at all. She has never said one thing that I thought was even honest and true. I'm just telling the truth. But she made up her mind, and she got a spineless worm to be her husband, and she got him all the way in the White House. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. Madeline Marie O'Hare decided she would get prayer and Bible kicked out of school, and in the matter of a few years, she got prayer and Bible kicked out of school. Now, why can't we have Christians that dedicated to do something for God? Why can't we have the opposite? I'm going to sell out my life that I'd have a Christian family that knows God. I'm going to impact my community that they will know God. No, we don't do that. Church becomes complacent. People want enough church in their life that they don't feel like a heathen, but not enough God in their life they feel convicted about the decisions that they make. That's the truth. So they want to go to a big church and they want to hide out that nobody knows if they come or if they don't. Well, if they know that I'm not there in a small church, they'll call me to find out why. And I don't want nobody to call and check on me. I just want to slide in and slide out. Some years ago, according to Gary Coleman of Vine Drive Baptist Church, he told the story. I don't know if it happened or not, but if it's a lie, he's a liar, not me. Somebody called up and was talking to the pastor of a church and said, I'm looking for a church. I don't care if I come or go. I want to be in a church that don't care if I tithe or don't tithe, because if money's tight, I'm not going to tithe. And he went through all these things, and I'm not going to go for special services, and I'm not going to be there for revivals, and I just want a church where I can come when it's convenient for me to come. And he gave the man an address of a church. He drives to the church thinking it was the pastor's church that he called. And he drives into the parking lot and realizes it is an abandoned church with a padlock on the front door. That is the average Christian in America's attitude to serving God. And he said, and I sought for a man. Now, if you notice where he sought for the man, among them. God is not going to France to try to find out if somebody will come to America and live for God in America. Not going to do it. He's not going to go to Canada to find out if there's a Christian in Canada that will come to America and do something for God in America. Why? We got more Christians in America than probably any country in the world. They just ain't doing nothing. I sought for a man among them. That's important. He's looking among the people that God is supposed to be working. If you notice, he named the prophets and the priests. Those men that were supposed to be standing for God is who he's walking among, trying to find some man to stand, because God needs some men and women to stand in our day. Do you know what the sad truth is? America is so spiritually ignorant. We lost the last generation, and we're losing this generation. Everything is more important than the house of God. I can prove it to you. If there's a special activity at school, they're there. But if the revival's going on, they're not. I know, touchdown. That one's good. I wish some of the big churches would say that. Oh, they're not going to do that. Most of them, if you look, they've abandoned most of their big meetings. Why? Because they know their people are not going to come. But he said, I sought for a man among them. We need some people that realize it's more important that our family's dedicated to Christ and the cause of Christ than anything else. We need that today. We need to stop looking around and comparing and start going, what's going on in my life between me and God? I don't care what anybody else in the church is doing. What's important is between me and you as individuals and God first. Then it's important what we're doing as a church. But if I'm not doing right, there ain't no sense in looking around. God's looking for a man and a woman among Greenwood Hills Baptist Church, not looking for somebody from another church to come in and do our job for us. Now, that's the truth of the matter. I've watched small churches this size or a little bit bigger try to bring in assistant pastors to help out with the workload and do some things. And what they end up doing is trying to bring somebody in to continue to visit throughout the week, regardless what's happened. That's pretty much their job. And I have nothing wrong with it. I think that is a phenomenal thing to do if a church can afford it. But the problem with that is the church will get to where they depend on one person to carry the load instead of everybody doing their share. Who's going to do the praying? Well, we pay him. He doesn't prepare sermons. He doesn't do this. He doesn't do that. We pay him. He's going to do our praying. We're going to give him places we need him to go visit. We're not going to go. We pay him. He's going to go. Before you know it, everybody at church comes in. Well, we did good this week. It hadn't done a thing. We need people within our own body to get busy doing things. I sought for a man among them. Notice the next thing. That should make up the hedge. Now that hedge back then that he's talking about was, back then you could do this in one of two ways. If it was a city, they would actually have a wall around the city. I hate to tell you this, walls are nothing new. I know this generation think walls are something they never heard of before. But if you go to England, and that's where our Bible was translated at, they had hedgerows there. And their hedgerows were built out of rock that they had found. And they'd build the fence row and they'd have hedges growing around it. But what happens is there will be a breakdown in that fence where the rock has been shifted and nobody has gone and kept up with the wall. And if the wall is not kept up and there is a breach in the wall, then that's where the wolf is going to go to get to the little lambs and the sheep. See, the devil doesn't knock on the front door and tell you he's coming in. The devil finds the weakest link in our society today. The easiest thing for the devil to get into our home is through our children and our young people. It's the easiest. Why? They're out there the most with the less concern about what's going on. The music they hear, the profanity they see, the rebellion they experience is far greater than what you and I will see going anywhere. I'm not going to go to a place and watch children and teenagers very often jump in an adult's face. But they're going to places where they see it as commonplace. So if you see it several times over, you begin to put it into practice. And that's how the devil often slips in. They're taught things that are not correct by people they're around. And I'm not saying these necessarily be people they hang around with. You go to school, you see it. You'll see teenagers and children, 9, 10, 11 years old, tell teachers what they're not going to do. Even if the teacher's wrong, that's a mom and dad's place to do and not a child's place to do. Period. But they see it and that child thinks, well, I'm going to do this at home. And the next thing you know, they do it. And then they're going to start telling you, well, all my friends are doing it. What makes it so wrong? All my friends do it. And see, that's how the devil works in the little breaches. They attack the holes in the fence. They attack the gaps in the wall. The immigrants that are coming and flooding our country illegally, they're not going where the wall's at its highest. They're going where there's not a wall. Period. The devil does the same thing. The industry of entertainment floods our home. We hear and see things we should never hear or see. Disney has been working gay relationships in children cartoons. They're remaking a lot of the old cartoons and making them now to where they're non-binary. They can be whatever you as a viewer want to see. And they're teaching this generation, and parents are sitting passively by watching it happen and not aware of what's going on. That's why it's so important that we help build up the hedge in our home, also at church. The devil's not going to walk on the front door and walk in the church and say, I'm fixing to destroy this place. The devil doesn't work that way. The devil comes in, and it's a hurt feeling here and a hurt feeling there, a snot comment here and an anger here and an issue there, and before you know it, the devil is in the church doing his bidding. He lets the flesh take over. And that's why it's so important that we dedicate ourselves to God, that those things don't bother us. Preacher, somebody said something bad about you. Do you think it's the first time? I told them from day one when I got here. I told them day one. I said, you can say anything about me you want to. I told my first church that, and they did it. They practiced it. You say something about her, and I'll knock out your lights. Period. Somebody looked at me and said, you sound like you meant it. I said, try it. I said, and by the way, if I knock out your lights, no. I'll see you in the hospital. I will leave in prayer for you to get better and leave after I've done knocked you out. You can say anything you want to about me. I don't care. Preacher, you're ugly. So, I've been called worse. Had a guy look at me one day, a black gentleman looked at me, he said, he said, you're a crazy white boy. I said, dude, you need to understand something. I've been pastoring for 30 years. I've been called a lot worse than that by better people. He looked at me and goes, you've been pastoring 30 years? I said, yes. He goes, no, you've been called a lot worse than that. People, I'm just trying to tell you, that's how the devil works. The devil didn't knock in the front door and say, hey, I'm coming in. The devil just enters here, there, and yonder. He takes a shot here and a shot here. Have you ever seen an animal look at, I seen a clip before I came to church. A guy had chickens that were getting attacked. And he said he figured out what it was. He found a hole around the coop, and where mink had been going in, and he put cameras up. Sure enough, and it's funny because the mink had figured out where he had pulled back and had a hole created, and that mink is on that post, and he calls to go forward. The farmer laughs down at the bottom. He said, he doesn't know, but that's a new piece of timber. Down he went, buddy. But he worked that coop for over an hour trying to find another way in. So that's what the devil does. He's always looking for an opportunity. I told my wife years ago I would never have a Christian school at church. Because that's exactly how the devil enters a lot of churches. You told my child, and you put them on detention? Yeah, you know what your child said to me? It doesn't matter. My child would never do that. You're just picking on my child. And before you know it, the church is split. Church is destroyed. No, I ain't going to do it. You want to homeschool? I'll help you. My wife she is professional at it. She can help you get it set up. I'm telling you, I don't know if anybody better. Her plans were so good that her sister, who was a teacher, she finally retired after 50 years of teaching. 50 years of teaching. She looked at my wife's plans and she said, these are the best study plans I've ever seen in my life. And those boys knew what they were responsible. I'm just telling you, though, the devil enters looking for every little breach he can find. And it only takes one wolf to decimate a flock. A whole flock can be decimated. People, we need to understand that's what's going on. Notice what he said. Make up the hedge. We need to understand there's holes always in the fence. We need to stop sitting back and thinking everything is fine. It will never be fine. Why? Because the devil is always attacking. And I don't know about you, but I'm not always in the best of moods. I know y'all wouldn't believe that out of me. Some days I get up and I'm not as jolly as I am on other days. How many of y'all believe that? Beth, I don't live out of you. I know where you live.
No.
But isn't it true? How many of y'all get up in the best mood every day? Get up and say, good morning, Lord. I'm so glad you woke me up. I'm so excited to serve you. I'm going to live for you all day today. If you do that every day, come see me. I need some of your blood. Because there's something in your blood that I ain't got.
I don't say all of it. I say the first two.
No, you know what you say? Lord, is it morning? Some days we get up and boy, we're ready to take over the world, and some days we think we've been beach pressing that world all night long.
That's right.
I'm telling you, people, if you're in the flesh, we need to always beware because there can be a tear down in the breach. That's what's important. We're building up the hedge. And notice what we're doing also. He said, and we're stand in the gap. If there's a place we can't bridge, we stand in the gap to make sure the devil don't get in. You coming through right there? I'm waiting on you. Not that I'm anything, but I can call the alarm. I'm going to tell you right now, if anybody thinks they're a match for the devil, they're sadly mistaken. Even Michael the archangel in the book of Jude, even Michael said, the Lord rebuke you. If Michael's no challenge, I know I'm not a challenge for him. But can I tell you something? I can scream, there's a gap right there, and that's where the devil's coming in at. That I can do. Now notice, he said, before me for the land, that I should not destroy it. See, God doesn't want to destroy any nation. But if he can't find people to stand for him, he'll wipe us off the face of the earth. He told Jerusalem and Israel, he said, I will wipe you like a man wipes a dish. There ain't going to be nothing left. Notice the last phrase. But I found none. There was nobody willing to say, here am I, Lord. Take my life and let me be whatever you want me to be. Lord, here am I. My life is yours. Here am I. My hands are yours. My eyes are yours. My ears are yours. My feet. So let me show you a couple of things real quick. Notice Jeremiah lived in the same era as Ezekiel. There's a gap in time between them. Jeremiah's an elderly man at the time. He's up in years. Ezekiel's on the second wave leaving. But notice in Jeremiah chapter 5. Run ye to and fro through the streets of Jerusalem, and see now and know, and seek in the broad place thereof, if you can find of man. If there be any that executeth judgment, that seeketh the truth, I will pardon it. See, God's not seeking to judge as much as he's seeking to pardon. So that's one thing we need to understand about God. God doesn't like playing gotcha. Some people like to, gotcha on that one. God doesn't play that. God said, I want to pardon you and see you get right with me that you can serve me more than I want you to see you do anything else. And though they say the Lord liveth, surely they swear falsely. O Lord, art not thine eyes upon the truth? Thou hast stricken them, but they have not grieved. Thou hast consumed them, but they have refused to receive correction. They made their faces harder than a rock. They have refused to return. Therefore I said, surely these are poor, they are foolish, for they know not the way of the Lord, nor the judgment of their God. I will get me unto the greater men, and will speak unto them. The low people wouldn't listen. Well, I'm going to go to the greater men of the community, the priests, the prophets, the leaders. For they know the way of the Lord and the judgment of their God. But these have altogether broken the yoke and burst the bond. Wherefore a lion out of the forest shall slay them, and the wolf of the evenings shall spoil them. A leopard shall watch over their cities. Every one that goeth without thence shall be torn in pieces, because their transgressions are many, and their backslidings are increased. Not in the days of Jeremiah could he find somebody. Now I want to ask you real quick, how many people's in the building tonight? Just turn around and count. You ain't got to count many. How many saved people are here tonight? Go to Genesis chapter 18. Now, I'm going to read a little bit more than I normally would. We're going to skip a little bit. Notice in chapter 18, step down to verse 22, and the men turned their faces from thence and went toward Sodom, but Abraham stood yet before the Lord. And Abraham drew near and said, Wilt thou also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Peradventure there be 50 righteous within the city. Will thou also destroy and not spare the place for the 50 righteous that are therein? Lord, in all of Sodom and Gomorrah, in that great city, in that area of the plain that they're on, Lord, if there is 50 righteous people that are sold out to serve you, would you destroy that city and the cities of the plains of Sodom and Gomorrah? Notice what he said. That be far from thee to do after this manner, to slay the righteous with the wicked, and that the righteous should be as the wicked. That be far from thee. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? And the Lord said, If I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, then I will spare all the place for their sake. And Abraham said, Behold now, I have taken upon me to speak unto the Lord, which am but dust and ash. Peradventure shall there lack 5 of the 50 righteous? Will I destroy all the city for lack of 5? And he said, If I find there 40 and 5, I will not destroy it. And he spake unto him yet again, and said, Peradventure there be 40 found there. And he said, I will not do it for 40's sake. And he said unto him, O let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak. Peradventure there be 30. There shall 30 be found there. And he said, I will not do it if I find 30 there. And he said, Behold now, I have taken unto me to speak unto the Lord. Peradventure there be 20 found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 20's sake. And he said, Oh, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak yet but this once. Peradventure 10 shall be found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 10's sake. See, God doesn't look for the masses. He looks for the heart. He looks at the heart. He looks for those that are sold out to him. If there would have been 10 people in Sodom and Gomorrah, God would not have destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, as big as those cities were. I think there's more than 10 in here tonight. Then can I ask you a question? Why hadn't we sold out to God yet? That's the simple matter. God's looking for individuals to do His bidding in the day when most people don't care enough to even find out what God wants them to do. And you young people here, you have the rest of your life before you. It's now time for you to make up your mind, I'm going to do something for God. They were sitting one day at a table up in the northern part of the United States. Some men were sitting around the table and said, the world has never seen what God could do with a man that is sold out completely unto God. A young shoe salesman bowed his head at that table and said, I will allow God to show to the world what God can do to a shoe salesman that sells out to God. He's a Sunday school teacher. That's all he ever professed to be, was a Sunday school teacher. That day, shortly after he went home and put everything into practice, it's not long before he started pastoring Sunday school classes. You probably have heard of him, a man by the name of D.L. Moody. I will show the world what God can do with a man that is totally surrendered to the will of God. In his lifetime, he shook Europe, America, and Australia for God. And D.L. Moody always told everybody, I'm just a Sunday school teacher. That's all he ever was. D.L. Moody was never ordained. Took a Sunday school class and grew up to be one of the largest churches in the world. There's more than 10 people in the building tonight. I'm asking, are you willing to step up and say, God, I will be in the hedge. I will make up the hedge. I will stand in the gap.